Clement Jimbo. I represent the people of Abak, Etmekbo, and Ika Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Akwa Ibom State. Mr. Speaker, the budget for 2024 was presented to the Alo Chamber by the executive. I have gone through the snippets of the budget. Mr. Speaker, the budget is prepared based on the National Development Plan of 2021 to 2025, as well as medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper 2024 to 2026. But Mr. Speaker, if you look at the body of the laws of this nation, particularly in 1993, there is an act of this parliament that put to bed the National Planning Commission of 1993. Mr. Speaker, it is in my considered opinion that a budget of this nature to renew the hope of Nigerians should equally renew the hope of National Planning Commission. I am of the opinion that that National Planning Commission should be resuscitated and put to effective use going forward, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues. If you look at the objective of this commission, that is an act of the parliament, it is basically to determine and advise on policies that will best promote national unity and integration and sustain the Nigerian nation. It is equally to ensure social justice and human welfare at all levels of the Nigerian society. Mr. Speaker, this all-important commission should not be left to rust. That is my number one point. Number two, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the benchmark, the oil benchmark for the budget estimate, if you look at in 2024, the executive has benchmarked oil production at 1.72 million per barrel. In 2025 at 1.8 million per barrel, and in 2026 at 1.81 million per barrel. But Mr. Speaker, if you look at what the OPEC said just this June 2023, due to our inability as a nation to meet up our OPEC quota, the 2023 OPEC quota was reduced from 1.7 millions per barrel to about 1.3 millions per barrel. And that is due to the fact, like I said, we've not been able to meet our OPEC quota. And going forward, in order for us to ramp up our oil production, the current security protection of our oil infrastructure that is assigned to just one security agency by the national NNPCL to Tantita Nigeria Limited, it is in my opinion that it should be opened up to other ex-agitators in the industry, in the Niger Delta, to equally take charge of their respective domain by making sure any oil theft that is perceived to take place in this domain is curtailed, and that will help to ramp up our oil production to at least 1.9 million barrels per day. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, if you look at the total projected revenue for this budget that is paid at 26.62 trillion naira, that is commendable, especially if you look at what the revenue stood in 2023, that is 11.86 trillion. The executive is highly commendable in this respect. But going forward, to ramp up our revenue, I've highlighted just one critical area that the executive will equally need to look into. If you look at the law that brought to bed the electronic money transfer levies, it is projected to about 3.66 trillion naira, and the cap is for those that transfer money from 10,000 naira and above. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, it is my considered opinion that if the base is lowered to 5,000 naira, it will open up more people to contribute to this pool, which the executive can equally leverage on to fund our infrastructural gap. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the critical sector allocation, like education, education plays a key role in any nation that wants to go far on this aid. The executive has done well by allocating 7.9% of the total budget to education. It is an increase from what was done in 2023, from 7% to 7.9%. But Mr. Speaker, if you look at the advice that was given to us by the United Nations about a year ago in 2022, Nigeria was seriously advised that we should increase our budgetary provision for our education to at least 20%. There was a reason. This was to help Nigeria achieve the global agenda for universal inclusion and equitable basic education for all school-age children by 2030. Mr. Speaker, if this is the yearnings of Nigerians and the yearnings of this House, we should equally appeal to the executive that the budgetary provision for our educational sector should be increased to at least 12.5%. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, looking at the total budget projection, I am of the opinion that it will well answer the many challenges and many problems that are currently bedeviling this nation, and we Nigerians are equally looking up to us to make sure we synergize with the executive to bring to bed indeed the renewed hope for Nigerians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues.
Thank you, Honorable Jimbo.